Let's talk a little bit about season 4, what people can expect and look forward to. Where are you guys at in the process?
We're 2 weeks from finishing series 4. We have to fly back tonight.
Yes, tonight.
And Benedict and I have an enormous scene to shoot on Tuesday morning.
Enormous.
You want to practice it here, or do you not?
What?
You want to practice it now? Or
Yeah,
is
we
that-
could have
Do a line
go,
run.
yeah.
There's about 26 pages of dialogue we're doing next week. It's been interesting.
But it's going very well.
Going very well.
Yeah.
Very well.
very well. It's going very well.
What do you think you guys have, since the start of the show? I mean, I remember when the show first, someone, gave me a screener of it before it even aired, and instantly was, oh, well, this is going to be everyone's new favorite show. Starting from that point, all these years later, how do you think the show has evolved, and how do you keep the characters fresh and the relationships intense?
I haven't the faintest idea. I don't know. Well, I suppose one of the tremendous advantages that I know is very popular with this crowd is that we just don't make very many. And by just not doing it very often, we're always fresh and rested when we make a new series. Something like that.
But you're
That'd be good.
essentially making 3 movies a year, though. I mean, that actually is...
Well, no, 3 movies every 2 years. Let's not exaggerate our tiny attainment. But in the same period, it must be said, Guy Ritchie's only made 2.
Yeah.
Does he get any hassle? No.
Yeah.
We get all the hassle from making quite a lot. A number I've forgotten. How many will be made?
It'll be 13 soon.
Yeah.
That's almost a season.
Yeah.
Hey!
Or as the Americans would say, half a season.
Half a season, yeah. The British are very good at, they'll just do 5 episodes and be like, we're good, and then that's it. And you don't see anything. So why do you think, how are you guys able to continue making the show and able to come back all these years when doesn't seem very common?
From an acting point of view, what you get when you first read those scripts is the thrill, hopefully, the audience gets when they see it. And it is the novelty, it's the reinvention of the wheel that's damn near perfect from Conan Doyle's point of view, and as we know from the books. But every time it's a sort of plussing of that. It's a plussing of what we tried to achieve, before in previous episodes and series. And there's an evolution to all the characters, and that's, as an actor, the real pleasure to play. And my God, is there a lot of that in this series? A lot of things come home to roost, which is fantastically exciting. But it's
Full of chicken.
It's full of rooks, ravens,
Birds.
chickens, birds. Yeah, any kind of nesting animal you care to mention. But yeah, no, it's that really. It's the thing of what's familiar, but also what confounds expectations.
Right.
And the level of invention and sheer ballsiness of it. I mean, it's a properly, I mean, the one we're doing now is so ambitious, especially for television and the amount of time and budget we have. It's quite extraordinary.
And there's also there's so many great undercurrents running under the show. There's just this recurring themes about addiction and broken relationships and dealing with mental health. How important was that? How important was that for you guys to?
Yes, Stephen, there is. You didn't even know.
there? I just thought it was some stories about a man in the flat.
Yeah. I thought he was solving crimes. What show do you think this is?
CSI Miami?
No, sorry. No.
Oh, I'm sorry. Is it Scooby-Doo?
Yeah.
I don't know if you got...
No, well, the truth, honestly, we just tried very hard over the last 6 years to keep it evolving, and the big thing right from the beginning of doing 90-minute episodes, film-length episodes, we realized quite quickly that we had to give them a real scale, and you've got to put the characters through an emotional ringer. You can't sort of just have story of the week. It's not really like that. So as a result, you have to keep the characters
Fresh.
going somewhere.
Yeah.
And you can't have John Watson being constantly astonished by Sherlock's deductions because he would have got used to them. So you have to evolve that part of it. You have to make sure that, as Doyle did, that the Sherlock Holmes at the end of the stories is not the same man we met at the beginning. He has changed, and otherwise it's just not interesting.
I think that's one of the critical things about if you're going to do a show about a genius, you can't do a show about a genius who doesn't learn.
Right.
That doesn't make any sense. He can't be the weird, scary, amoral man we met in the first episode. He just can't be. Otherwise, he's not learning, and geniuses do learn.
Also, I would imagine, from the writer's point of view, I mean, the actors are so brilliant that it's quite nice to throw things at them and take them out of their comfort zone and give you stuff to play with, I think, as well, isn't it?
It's literally nice to throw things at Amanda.
Yeah. And toys to play with, yeah.
So long as Benedict always wears the coat, and we never change the coat.
All
I'm
the
quite
hair.
hung up on the coat.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes, which
I'm
is-
glad you did that, because it's going to resolve a long-standing argument. Every year, Sue tells me, in a scene of domestic disharmony, that we're going to change the coat. And I say, we're not changing the coat. Because I'm...
What?
You see,
Can I-
darling? Yeah.
The
Yeah,
actual-
film...
Wow, there's going to be trouble at the
film
mill
that.
tonight. I mean, that's how to win popularity in your marriage. Diss your wife in front of an all-H coat obsessees. I'll stick up for Sue. Sometimes that coat needs to come off for two reasons. He wears other... Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You darn tootin'. Yeah, that reason too.
Half
But
of
also
Hall H
because-
might need a minute.
Yeah, well, I wear a suit under that coat. And also sometimes it's very hot. And sometimes you can see it's hot weather. So it does come off every now and again. But
We did.
Also, we don't actually have many coats.
We don't have many left, do we?
we don't, yeah, we're running
But we
out
have a
of
lot of
trash
coats
a
that we
lot.
try every year, because every year we do try and attempt to
Which
get
is
a new
wrong.
coat, and it
Yeah.
never makes.
That's
it
so-
never makes the same.
You change the TARDIS almost every year, and you won't change Sherlock's coat.
It's still a police box.
I don't know if you guys.
Inside the coat, I don't mind.
Yeah.
I don't know if.
Different lining,
It's
same-
what's on the
It would
outside.
still be a coat.
Did you see in the
No.
background at the beginning of that video, they had all those notes up on the board, and one of them said, Doctor Who Sherlock crossover, and then in Stephen's writing, over my dead body, with a bunch of exclamation points.
I think you'll find that was my handwriting.
It's not
Oh, is
fair.
that- was that Mark's
it's
handwriting?
not fair. I am not the one who blocks the Doctor Who Sherlock cross.
Yeah.
It is everybody else at this table that blocks it, right?
No, it's Trump.
Yes, it is Trump.
He did it.
It's the first part of his plan.
We can't let these two get together.
It's going to build a wall.
I'd love.
I like Doctor Who. I like Sherlock. I like Doctor Who. I like Sherlock. I like both. I want them together. What can I say? I like them.
Hey, wait. Biopic?
I'm saying. I can dye
Orange
my hair.
face.
I can dye my hair. I like being black.
I didn't. That's the first time I've ever done a Donald Trump.
Amanda, what are you most excited about for season 4?
The 3 episodes. It's really dark. It's the darkest that Stephen and Mark have written, and yeah, it's. I mean,
the darkness.
when we read them, all of us, when we were kind of overwhelmed by them. I think
Yeah.
because they were shocking and amazing as always, but they kind of, if we can pull this off, then it's amazing.
Yeah, it's a genuine emotional roller coaster, this series, and the learning curves are sort of, yeah, they're massive.
With jokes.
With jokes, yeah, there's always a bit of
there's-
humour.
There are some great jokes,
And a
but
coat.
there are also quite a few.
Yeah.
Yeah, tears. Sorry, drunk Sherlock. No.
I thought you said jump Sherlock. Sorry. I thought you said jump Sherlock. That's very
Somebody out there should do just a specialist cosplay of drunk Sherlock. That'd be brilliant. Just wandering around.
Last time we were here, there were lots of people in white sheets. I can't see any.
Drunk Did you say drunk Sherlock?
Do you know what I mean?
No, is that it?
Drunk Sherlock.
Oh, yeah.
When he's on the stag do and he's getting pissed with
He's
John.
getting, yeah. Let it go to my mind, pal.
But, yeah. Exactly. I thought it was that way.
Where is it?
But apart from that,
But you talk about jokes, but the show does strike the perfect balance between, you have to manage the narrative arc, but you also have to manage the drama. So how much comedy are you cutting out of each episode to sort of keep everything in balance?
We never cut jokes.
Stephen-
Both
Stephen
Mark
is
and
a
I are
professor
comedy
of
writers
comedy
at
art,
heart.
yeah.
So we don't, I think one of the, hopefully a strength of the show is the way we look at it is if there isn't a major plot development, if there isn't a major moment of drama or a fright, we'll put some jokes in. So there's always quite a lot of gags in Sherlock. Or they're meant to be. They're meant to be gags. But the advantage of it being a drama is if a gag doesn't work, you can just pretend it was a serious
But it's like we always say this. It's like life. I think it's such a false distinction between comedy and drama. Life is always a mixture of the two. We were talking about this the other day. The times you feel, the most under pressure to behave, the times you get hysterical and slightly laugh about things. And as in life, your release from a terrible dramatic situation is often humor, and that's the way it should be. It shouldn't be a false distinction. It has to be all po-faced or all straightforward comedy.
But what's great is that in the beginning of the series, a lot of the jokes were very meta jokes about the concept of that you were doing a Sherlock series, and they really evolved into the relationships between the two of you. So are you improvising at all on the set between you and Martin?
No, there's not much room for improvisation. But this is a very beautifully tight, brilliantly conceived piece of music. You can't. It's not jazz. I mean, there's jazz in the sense of how you deliver it. Absolutely, there is. And there's always an involvement that Martin and I have with going, I'd like to try this or not that. And there's that, but it's minutiae. And beyond that, no, there's no improvisation. It's about how we do it rather than what we're doing. Right. What we're doing is what we sign up for, which are gloriously written scripts. And it's a treat, so you don't really want to muck around with that. There are moments, actually, I'm trying to think in this particular series as well, where it does get looser for good reason, in every regards. I mean, psychologically with what Sherlock goes through and what Watson goes through and what we all go through, which, the form of it being that sort of, I don't know what I'm saying. Just rabbiting on. Yeah, there's a looseness, but you've got a very strict tempo to obey with the scripts. I think that's what I'm trying to say. Shut up now.
No, it's fine. No, not at all. Please don't. I mean, you have to understand they all flew in to come to to San Diego for 2 days. Yeah. I know. Sorry. People have real conversations here. My apologies. But they came here basically just for 2 days, and then they're immediately going straight back to work. I mean, you guys to finish
we did a week of night shoots and all sorts before we got here as well. Hello, that sounded like a cat.
It was a cat.
It's a Meowth.
And we had a lot of cake, didn't we, Benedict?
Catlock.
We had a lot of cake last week.
A lot of cake. You had a lot of cake last week. Yeah, I've had to hit the train.
Somebody's birthday.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Happy.
Oh,
no,
wow.
Don't do it. Oh, shit. Look what I started. Sorry.
Do you have the
Happy birthday, Mr. President.
What's going on? I need more sleep. You're taking your clothes off.
It's the longest birthday in history.
Thinking about it.
There you go. Thank you.
Thank you for your level of commitment. I like that this section was like, no, we started and we're not stopping this train.
Wow, that was weird.
Amanda, Mary's arc was incredible last season, and legitimately did not see it coming. How does this process work in terms of at the beginning of the season they sit you down and go, this is what's going to happen, or do you not find out?
I didn't know I was going to be an assassin until the 3rd episode when I read it. But I'd been told by Stephen and Mark that she had a very dark past and a big secret, and that would be kind of cataclysmic in the 3rd episode. Little did I know I'd have to shoot the hero. But when I read that, I was with Martin when I read it, and I looked at him and I went, they're going to hate me for doing that. And actually, but it's what an amazing thing to play. What an amazing character to play. I think she's so well-rounded as a character, and she's tricky, and she's independent, and she's sassy, and she's dangerous. And I think that's great for a female actor to play. I love that.
If the roles were reversed, would you have read the file? If the roles,
I would Would I have read the 3rd if I had it?
No, would you have read the file about your partner's past? Would you have read?
Oh God, I would. Yeah, of course. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, I'll read anything. Yeah, anything to do with anybody's past, I'm all over that. Yeah, but no, I think that's really cool that he never reads it. I think that that's a really good. It's a really interesting. It just means John's moral.
It's just full of cat videos.
Yeah. And pictures of my puppy.
It's quite good, though, you didn't know number 3, because you didn't have to put all those into the first...
Absolutely, and I would have played it differently had I known that that was the outcome in episode 3. I would have played her with more of an edge and more knowing, but the beauty of not knowing was that you thought, oh, God, she's a real mild-mannered, very sweet, charming character, and actually she was ruthless, and I kind of like that the payoff of that was so intense in episode 3.
Yeah, because now every character I mean, the characters really could have just been all one-dimensional. I think people would have been fine with that. But now, even the fact that your character kind of makes John address the fact that he is addicted to drama and there's
And
all this
danger, yeah.
PTSD and all this danger stuff that's going
Yeah.
on.
They're all flawed. That's what I love about the writing. Every character in this series is flawed in some way, and that's so much more interesting to watch and to play. I'd much rather watch a flawed character, because you kind of then you can't help but like them, or you judge them, and that's what you're supposed to do. I think that's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to judge your characters, and I quite like that.
Mrs. Hudson, I love getting more and more of her.
She's
Oh,
saying-
yeah.
I mean, she's insane. She suddenly comes out with all these things, It's like, you were married to a drug dealer? How is that possible? But it's totally plausible because of the writing. The
Because
writing
it's
is so
that's
strong.
why it's plausible.
How had you planned that, Stephen and Mark? Had you planned that arc from the very beginning of that season?
What the Amanda one or the?
Yeah, the Amanda.
Yeah,
one.
yeah, absolutely. Beat for beat. I mean, we deliberately made the show a bit lighter in the first 2 episodes, so veering it towards comedy almost, so that and you get sort of a third of the way into his last vow, and it's still quite funny.
Yeah.
And then she turns round, and everything you've been told up until that point is a dirty lie.
Right.
Which I always like that to happen at some point in the day, because that's the truth of your life. Everyone's lying to you. An assassin.
So all those moments, you're keeping an eye on all those moments that are seemingly innocuous moments that are very subtle, that people would never point out. Even just she has an amazing, eye for detail, and she remembers things.
Yeah.
You've already planned which scenes those are going to be, but you don't tell her because you don't want her to.
Well, we wanted it to be perfect. You wanted her to disguise to be perfect. But if you do look at it, she works out the skit code in a moment, and you see Sherlock register that's odd, and then get carried away with saving John. Yeah. You see it happen to the speed with which she remembers the room number and the sign of 3. All those things are there.
A blizzard of words around her. It says liar amongst all the other stuff.
Yeah.
He's sort of subconsciously clocking those things. But actually, there's I wouldn't say it, who's an actor in this series who has to sort of have pretended to know something, and he was unsure about what he knew when, and I was sort of trying to take him through it. Eventually I said, just pretend you know nothing. And it is actually easier when you're trying to disguise yourself rather than playing the result. If you're actually saying, oh, I have a secret, it's actually better not to know, because then you don't present anything.
Right.
And then we don't give anything away to the audience. There are no tells.
Right. The Victorian special was amazing, Abominable Bride. And in terms of, I think I sort of expected it to be, well, this is a standalone, this is a separate sort of fun thing that we're going to do.
Well, you expected that because we explicitly told you that's what it was.
Yes.
She shows the power of lying.
Back to Trump. Yay!
Someone's going to make a meme of your face, Stephen, and it's just going to say, liar, 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 liar.
Secret Lib Dem.
In fairness, I do say that I'm lying, and then I lie, and people get cross
But maybe-
about the fact that I told you.
Maybe you're lying then. It's like trying to answer the question, is it opposite day? You can't answer that question.
You can't lie all the time. You've got to lie some of the time.
Got
That way
it.
no one can trust you at any point.
Write that down, kids. Write that down.
That's how it works.
A basis for marriage.
There's the basis of
Hello.
marriage.
So, what was the decision to tie everything back in, and how did you decide to sort of make it part of this Mind Palace journey and weave it into where the last episode left off?
Well, it's sort of the idea began as a not really as a joke, just something we sort of batted around. Would be fun, and we thought it would be fantastic that really the only 2 Holmes and Watson who'd ever done modern day and period were Basil Rathbone and Nigel Bruce, and we thought it'd be brilliant, to go really right back to the beginning, but sort of treat it. If we'd had the idea to just do Sherlock Holmes as it usually is, it would still be. That was the show we would have done. So it wasn't suddenly very sort of fusty and slow paced, etc. It would be Sherlock, but in that period. But we just had this narrow window where we could make a special, where everyone's diaries worked. And it was kind of the only time we could tell that story was in those 5 minutes before the plane lands. And then we just obviously had to fib about it and just say it was a standalone, because it looked like we'd gone crazy.
Yeah.
But it was so much fun, wasn't it? I mean, it was the really, really odd thing is that when we first began, quite a lot of press did ask us, how can you do Sherlock Holmes without gas lamps and hansom cabs? And then we did some press for the special, and a couple of them said, well, how can Sherlock Holmes exist in a world without iPhones? Oh, well, we've done something right. There is some precedent for it.
It was great. It was such fun to play. I mean, it's a joy that we managed to sort of straddle both eras, and I'm very happy in Victorian garb. Not least because, we talked about the coat a lot, so that doesn't appear too much in that one. But the hair, it's just so much easier having slick back hair, I can't tell you. I spent longer in that chair getting my hair diffused and curled, whatever.
What
I'm
is
there
the
longer than most
Sherlock?
of the ladies.
What is the Sherlock hair process for cosplayers?
It take
out
too
there?
long.
Oh, they all know.
Take too long
It's
to
twist and
explain.
diffuse. Yeah, I think it's got its own hashtag somewhere. Yeah, it's on
But
the Facebook page.
I noticed Victorian Sherlock was a little bit different than modern day
As he
Sherlock.
should be, yeah. I mean, I think he projects with some degree of accuracy into a past. I mean, you've got Molly Hooper pretending to be a man. You've got all sorts of things that are slightly sort of unfeasible in a real Victorian era, I suppose. Although, no, it's not necessarily true. But yeah, as far as Sherlock goes, yeah, I wanted him to be more stiff. I want, if that is possible, but sort of straighter back, and just a little bit crueler and of that era. So a little bit more clipped in his dialect, a little bit more sort of crisp and polite to what era he was in. And there's something slightly more severe. The edges that have been rounded, I think, by Watson and the overarching humanization of him in our version were kind of retrograded a bit, and that was fun to play with. Really good fun to play with. And
We also ended up with an unexpected thing, really, in that last scene where the credits roll and then it suddenly goes back to Baker Street and Sherlock says to John, this is my idea of what the future might be like. So, which really poses the possibility that the entire series, our series, is just the fevered imaginings of a real Victorian man.
Right.
So maybe the whole thing is just
Right.
a Victorian man's idea of the future.
Oh, don't start.
So I guess we can infer that because you're playing with time, that is technically a Doctor Who crossover.
oh God, it's happened.
It's as close as you'll ever get.
Yeah.
But it does seem to allow you the possibility to jump back and forth in future episodes. Do you foresee that ever
I
happening?
don't think so. I think that was the time we could do it, and the obvious one to do is to do it in the original, authentic Victorian gear, just to see it once that way. Mark and I are, of course, obsessed with the idea that one day we could do the 1940s propaganda movie where they fight the Nazis like Basil Rathbone and Nigel Bruce. But if we announce that, we've lost our minds. So it's not out of the question.
Con 2017. Very exciting. What is the relationship dynamic between Sherlock and Mycroft is a little bit different in Abominable Bride. So I'm thick-headed, so I sort of missed what is happening with the pudding and what is that dynamic?
Well, in the original stories, Mycroft is enormously fat. And obviously, to go into the Victorian one, we thought we'd go for the full Mr. Creosote. In fact, we talked about that for years.
Yeah.
And how much fun that would be. And then this idea of that they actually have a bet on how long he's going to live.
That's what I'm wondering about. Why?
Well, because the whole thing is in Sherlock's head. He's just basically having some
Being
fun.
really cruel.
Got
Yeah.
it.
What you have to imagine is that the whole thing is actually taking place at lightning speed in his head. But along the way, he's having fun. He's
Turning
making,
his brother into Jabba the Hutt.
yeah, he's making John a bit more like Nigel Bruce, etc., and having fun. But then that's one of the ways he's just poking the finger at his brother.
But
and
also-
making him eat puddings.
And it was meant to be funny, Chris.
It is funny. It was funny.
meant to be a joke, and you just asked us to
I just
explain
took it
the
as a-
joke in public in front
No.
of 7,000 people. We're
Listen.
humiliated now.
Stephen, I just took it as a very serious, dramatic moment.
Which you asked about.
No, the reason that I asked is because I was trying to figure out, and now that you've explained, I understand that the relationship is so kind of toxic that Mycroft would usher his own death to win a bet with his brother, essentially.
Why not?
So what can we expect from Mycroft in season 4?
Less pudding.
Less pudding.
Trim him up.
Can't tell you really. We have a lot of fun
We do.
this season. And
Yeah.
a lot of things are resolved. A lot of things are raised.
I'm not saying anything.
You can't really
Yeah, it's no,
yeah,
it's
so
a,
a lot
it's
of
a,
fun.
it's a, yeah, it's definitely, it's an evolving relationship.
But you
That's all I
started
could say.
peeking into at the toward the end of last season. You really did start peeking into the idea that Mycroft really loves him, and he
Well,
even
of course he loves
Yeah.
him. It's just, it's like he
And that goes both ways, definitely.
Yeah.
You know.
He wants him on the inside of the tent, pissing out. He can't bear the
Not
fact,
literally, that would be strange.
he can't bear the fact that this amazingly intelligent brother is not part of his establishment. That's what it is. It all comes from a place of caring. It's just he doesn't really know how to express it.
That's in the first episode.
Yeah.
In the very first episode, it's cold and strange what he does, but he is worried about his brother. And that's why he asked Dr. Watson to spy on him. It's not a conventional thing to do with the family member, but he's not a conventional person. He always cares.
Yeah. Recently, there was a picture of Sherlock with a dog. So
Yes.
What can you tell us about?
It's a bloodhound.
Yes.
It was the best thing we could do on the day with that dog was take photographs because it wouldn't fucking move.
It wouldn't
I mean,
move.
it just wouldn't move.
We were, I mean, use the
it was
expression, we were sold a pup, but
The stage directions were, Mary
Races
gets
off.
dragged around London by a voracious bloodhound, and it literally. The owner said, "Yeah, it doesn't like
doesn't
concrete much."
And it doesn't like crowds.
in London.
Doesn't like
it doesn't
pavement.
like pavement. Doesn't like people.
Doesn't like people.
We were in a
doesn't like the
market in
sky.
London.
Urban, not urban.
It's not an urban dog. Brilliant.
Fantastic. We found our perfect match for an urban scene with a
that
dog
shot of
that's supposed
you?
to drag.
There's one point I was literally pulling, and I pulled and just ended up on my back just because he just wouldn't move. He was lovely, very affectionate, but just sat there for the whole time. And we ended up getting a bit hysterical, didn't
Yeah.
we? We were
It
kind of
was-
just like,
yeah,
Ben and
it
I were
was-
going, this is insane.
And we have to
What are we
work
gonna
very,
do?
very hard to play Sherlock Holmes in London
there
and
a
not
part
feel
you're being
an
pulled by?
iota of being self-conscious. And then when you have a bit of slathering concrete on the end of a lead, it just loses all semblance.
And in
of
the end, you
seriousness.
remember, I had to have
Yeah.
like
prop
a
man,
prop man. and he was holding the lead, and he
Dragging
was out
around
of
her.
shot, pulling me along because the dog was over there having a fag and a pint of beer.
When you
Just
see the
refused.
episode, there's actually a scene about that Mark and I wrote standing on the pavement
Yeah.
to
At the
account
end
for
of
the
the day.
fact
A sort of
that the
8:45
dog
at night,
wouldn't move.
wasn't it?
you talk about improvisation, that was a hastily improvised. We literally
Yeah.
had to account for the fact the dog would not do what we're supposed to do. So it's actually the nicest bit in it. I think this dog is just hopeless. We have to account for the fact it's a totally static dog. Never work with anyone.
Curious.
What about the fact, getting to the next season and a baby, and how does that change the dynamic?
Yeah, I know how. It's amazing, isn't it? Can't say. I can't say. I'm
Without,
not allowed to say
without,
anything.
without specifics, how do you think?
We find. She's pregnant when we open the full series.
Pregnant forever.
She's pregnant. She's more pregnant than an elephant. Like, she's got the longest gestation period I've ever known. But
It is
I
an
don't-
elephant.
It is, yeah.
there is.
That's a
Yeah,
good
I don't know. The baby features.
That's good.
The baby features. And also, never worked with babies either.
No,
Not
actually,
on
no,
the same
the
day as
move.
the dog.
I
to
had
be fair,
one-
compared to the dog, the
I
baby's
was wearing a
fine.
navy blue shirt, and God bless her, she was a beautiful baby, or he, and projectile vomited all over me. So
And
everyone
then went over, and the baby went over and had a cigarette. I'm done.
Yeah, I
Done
was
for the
having a
day.
bag and a pint of beer in the
Yeah,
trailer.
off to the side.
But we used many babies, and they were all very, very sweet and lovely. But it's very difficult trying to get, when you're doing a scene, when you're supposed to be carrying a baby and doing stuff, and it's the end of the day, and they're tired, obviously, because they're babies. And it was.
And we got newborn babies. And it really surprises me that
tiny
somebody would
babies.
give their newborn baby over for you to
Yeah.
play with.
Here,
You're the
have
producer.
this
You
tiny
hire
baby.
them. We need someone out there to give our baby. No, it's a strange thing, and obviously babies are on a schedule, so it's always tricky, and you can't match necessarily what you're doing at filming day with the baby's routine. So
You have a baby now.
Yeah. Ben has a baby.
I do hope.
And he's
Do you want to know how little you're learning about Series 4? We are actually talking about working with children and animals.